You've probably heard the tragic story of Hinckley's misguided obsession with the actress Jodie Foster that led to his attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan. But there's more to the chilling tale than that. Imagine being a young actress, still in college, and finding out that a deranged fan has stalked you for years, written you love letters, and then, in a twisted act of devotion, shot the leader of the free world to get your attention. That was the reality for Jodie Foster back in 1981. At just 19 years old, Foster found herself unwillingly tied to one of the most infamous crimes of the 20th century. Her stalker's sinister actions would catapult her into a media frenzy and subject her to a level of scrutiny no teenager should ever face. This is the bizarre and frightening story of John Hinckley Jr., a president on the brink of death, and a young woman whose only crime was starring in a movie that captivated the wrong person. John Hinckley Jr. became obsessed with the actress Jodie Foster after watching her in the 1976 film Taxi Driver. His fixation grew into an unhealthy infatuation and led him to stalk her when she attended Yale University. In 1981, Hinckley attempted to assassinate newly elected President Ronald Reagan in a twisted effort to impress Foster. He had seen that in Taxi Driver, the main character attempts to assassinate a senator to win the affection of a woman. Hinckley trailed Foster for months, slipping poems and messages under her dorm room door and harassing her with phone calls. His behavior frightened Foster, but no one anticipated that his disturbing obsession would lead to violence. On March 30th, Hinckley shot Reagan and 3 others outside a Washington, D.C. hotel. At trial, prosecutors argued that he carried out this brazen act of violence to gain Foster's attention and affection. Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity and confined to a psychiatric facility for decades. His dangerous fixation and attack highlighted the threat of stalking and violence against women. Foster has called for better laws and policies to prevent stalking, all because of one obsessed fan's twisted act in 1981. John Hinckley Jr. became obsessed with actress Jodie Foster after seeing her in the movie Taxi Driver. He hatched a disturbing plan to impress her by assassinating President Ronald Reagan. In Hinckley's unwell mind, killing the president would earn Foster's affection and respect. He began stalking Jimmy Carter and Reagan, the presidential candidates at the time, attending rallies to get close enough to shoot. On March 30th, 1981, Hinckley got his chance. As Reagan walked outside the Washington Hilton Hotel, Hinckley opened fire with a .22 caliber revolver. He hit the president, a police officer, and Reagan's press secretary in the chest. Thankfully, all survived, but Reagan came close to death after losing nearly half his blood volume. Hinckley's sinister scheme to win Foster's heart by murdering the leader of the free world shocked the nation. His attorneys would argue he was insane, and a jury found him not guilty by reason of insanity. Hinckley was committed to St. Elizabeth's Psychiatric Hospital for over 30 years until his controversial release in 2016. Jodie Foster, an unwitting player in this disturbing drama, issued a statement after the shooting saying Hinckley's obsession with her was sad and frightening. The bizarre and terrifying chain of events serves as a sobering reminder of the dangers of untreated mental illness and unhealthy obsessions. On March 30th, 1981, the unthinkable happened. President Ronald Reagan was shot outside the Washington Hilton Hotel by John Hinckley Jr., a man obsessed with the actress Jodie Foster. Hinckley had developed an unhealthy fixation on Foster after watching her in the 1976 film Taxi Driver. He began stalking her, sending her love letters, and even traveling to Yale University, where she was studying, in hopes of meeting her. When all of his efforts failed, the deranged Hinckley hatched a plan to assassinate Reagan in a twisted attempt to impress Foster. As Reagan was leaving the hotel after giving a speech, Hinckley opened fire with a .22 caliber revolver, hitting the president, a police officer, a Secret Service agent, and Reagan's press secretary James Brady. Reagan suffered a punctured lung, but swift action by the Secret Service and medical professionals on the scene saved his life. The assassination attempt stunned the nation. Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed to a psychiatric hospital. The shooting also led to the passage of the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, establishing background checks for firearms buyers. For Foster, the unwanted attention from Hinckley led to a difficult time in her life dealing with the guilt and trauma of the events. Though she had no direct involvement, many still wrongly blamed her for what happened simply due to Hinckley's disturbing infatuation. The tragic episode serves as a sobering reminder of the potential consequences of celebrity worship and unchecked psychological issues. Jodie Foster was just 18 years old when John Hinckley Jr. became obsessed with her after watching her in the film Taxi Driver. His unhealthy obsession and delusional belief that he could win her over by assassinating President Reagan led to a terrifying ordeal for the young actress. Upon hearing news of the assassination attempt and Hinckley's motive, Foster was horrified. In a statement, she said she was deeply saddened by the tragedy and expressed concern for the president's recovery. However, she also emphasized that she did not know Hinckley and had no relationship or contact with him whatsoever. Foster had to deal with a level of fame and media scrutiny no teenager should endure. Reporters hounded her, following her to classes at Yale University. She received many disturbing letters from fans and had to hire bodyguards for her own safety. The stalking and harassment by the media and public lasted for over a decade and took a major emotional toll. Decades later, Foster continues to refuse to discuss Hinckley or the assassination attempt in interviews. The traumatic events of that time fundamentally shaped her fiercely guarded privacy and separation of her public and private lives that continues today. Her ordeal highlighted the dark side of fame and the need for laws preventing stalking and harassment, which were strengthened in the years following the attack. The assassination attempt shook the nation and tested Reagan's character during a time of crisis. Despite the seriousness of his injuries, Reagan displayed courage, optimism, and grace under pressure. Within hours of surgery, Reagan was cracking jokes to show his resilience. When his wife Nancy first saw him in the hospital, he quipped, "Honey, I forgot to duck." His indomitable spirit raised the nation's morale. Reagan's affable and courageous response to the shooting intensified his popularity and cemented his reputation as the Teflon president. His approval rating spiked to 73% following the assassination attempt. The country rallied around their leader during this time of crisis. Though Reagan came close to death, he survived and recovered remarkably well. Just 2 weeks after surgery, he greeted the press from his hospital window. His speedy recovery and optimism reinforced his image as a vigorous, courageous leader. The assassination attempt caused a temporary halt in government activity and passage of legislation. However, it ended up strengthening Reagan's leadership and intensifying the nation's support for his policy agenda. Overall, the attack and its aftermath proved to be a pivotal moment that galvanized Reagan's presidency.